Hi, I'm Robin Forster with FeelSoAlive and FeelSoAlive Informed. And today I have a very special guest that I want to share with you. So, Amy, say hi to everybody.
Hello, hello.
Excellent. So I met Amy through networking and we started talking about health because I'm into health and wellness. And so Amy was sharing with me some of what she was doing and I said, oh, Amy, we have to do an interview. I need to share your tools and your techniques with the world because it's kind of awesome and we all need more help with our bodies during this era in our lives. Um, so Amy, just a little bit about her, and then I'll let her tell you more. And the reason I'm looking down is because I have my notes, and I want to make sure that I don't miss something. So Amy was trained as a professional dancer, and as a kid, my mother tried to help me learn how to dance, and there are just some things that I should not be allowed to do. So I really, really appreciate someone who has that as part of who they are, because it's an awesome skill to have. And then after doing professional dancing, she also became a Pilates teacher. And that I was really fascinated about because I've taken some Pilates classes on and off over the years and really loved them. So, needless to say, Amy is into movement and into the body. And what we're going to talk about some today is about trauma because we all are during this stressful time in the world while we're on pause, depending on your point of view. So, Amy, why don't you start off by telling us a little bit about yourself?
Sure. Thank you. I'm an embodied strength coach, and so I work with people mostly one-on-one to connect with their sensations. Our sensations tell us a lot about what our beliefs are, and they also tell us a lot about what's happening in our environment. And what happens is that when we are going through a stressful time, um, a, the response that a lot of us have is to numb out. We it's sort of like that sensation becomes too much, or the emotion becomes too much, and we just sort of feel like we need to put it somewhere else. But the problem is that our body doesn't just let it go at that point. It holds on to that feeling until you go back to it again. So through yeah. So it's really important that we keep a relationship with our body and with our sensation. And that's what I'm here for, is to help. I work primarily with women and people who identify as women, to have a meaningful relationship with their body.
That sounds so fascinating because, on one hand, I'm thinking, well, of course, I have a relationship with my body because we hang out together all the time. And then on the other hand, I know some folks, one I'm thinking of that I won't name, who it does not have much awareness of his body.
Yeah.
And what hurts or what feels or all those things. And sometimes I look at him and it's, how can you not know? But people don't. So that's part of why I was drawn to you and wanted to share that because we all need it, and I know in my life I need it more. So okay, so this is awesome. I'm excited. Okay, so tell us a little bit about how you got drawn into dance and Pilates and into trauma work and the whole body thing.
Yeah. Well, the main thing is that I'm a kinesthete. So that's a learning style, right? It's like some people are more visual, some people are more auditory. But I learned through doing. I learned through my body, and so that's why I think I gravitate towards dance and all of those. I've studied many different forms of movement. So through dance, I've also studied somatic practices, which really just means of the body, and they tend to be more slow, more kind of therapeutic practices. But I've also then been studied more in the body science realm of our own physiology or biology, a lot of anatomy, and just learning about the ins and outs of how we're put together. Pilates is a very specific style, like it's a very specific technique of training. And I, it always struck me as I was teaching people and I was learning it for myself, how like that I would see that disconnect in people. And my rational mind was just sort of like, well, why can't they just, I'm telling them this is where they need to move, but they can't seem to, their brain doesn't seem to be connected to that part of their body. And in fact, sometimes, you would ask someone, say, where their pain is, and they would say, or they would just sort of point to a spot, like maybe, my pain is right here. It's like right at my head, and you're okay. And that, that was always a big question of like, what is really happening here? So, going through then years, that was like an underlying question that I had through my journey, and then going through my own healing journey led me to find the deeper inner workings of how trauma shows up in the body, and how that affects how we show up in the world and are able to inhabit our body.
That is so fascinating. I was sharing a little bit with you before we started recording that I have trigeminal neuralgia, and it's just been kicking my butt. And usually we're kind of frenemies, and a lot of it, I think, is the stress and the trauma. And so when you were talking about trauma in our bodies, it was like, oh, we need to tell the world, because I know I'm not the only one that is increasing my pain, and that's not what I have in mind. So I need some new skills, some new tips. So tell us about trauma in our body and what we can do, because it's a stressful time. I mean, there's no other way to be but traumatic and stressed out, and because that's just what the world is right now. I mean, that's how the energy is in the world. So share lots with us.
Well, that's a very big topic, Robin.
Yeah, he had like 5 minutes or less.
Yeah, I'm definitely not going to be able to fit that into 10-minute conversation. I maybe want to point you to two really great resources. One is one of my teachers who has a ton of videos on YouTube. Her name is Irene Lyon, and she's very good at explaining the biology, the physiology of how stress works. The other is a great book that came out recently. I have it in the other room, otherwise I'd show it to you right now. It's called Burnout, and it's by Emily and Amelia Nagoski. And they do a really great job of giving in plain language how, and just it's really easily digestible, how it works. One of the main things is that we think that our brain, our logical mind thinks that, you have a problem, you have something that's stressing you out. Well, if you get rid of the thing that stresses you out, then your problem is solved. But our physiology actually needs us to physically complete whatever that feeling is before it can move on and let go.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah.
Huh, because I know about the whole concept about, circle back around and close the open loops, and, and I think even in the AA world, they have the making amends. So it's going back and cleaning up, whatever you need to with relationships. So there's a lot of that in the world, but I never thought about it in terms of my body and my trauma. And Okay, so talk to us about how we can do that. And you're right, we only have about 3 minutes left. I'm watching the clock. So what are maybe some tips and techniques that people can take away from this that they can use?
I'm going to lead you through a really quick um, exercise. Okay.
Yes.
So what I want you to do is make sure that you're seated comfortable. If that means you need to change where your hands are or just how you're sitting, go ahead and do that. We're going to start with a very simple body scan. And this is just for you. It's not for you to change anything. It's simply for you to get a picture of what's happening inside your body right now. If we had more time now, this could be a longer process. You could make it a whole 10 minutes, just the body scan. But for right now, we're going to keep it simple at around 30 seconds or so. Okay, so you're going to start with whatever contact points you have with something, right? So if you're sitting, it's going to be your sit bones and your seat, which may include the back of your pelvis, may include the back, some part of your back on your chair, and likely it's going to be some part of your foot. So just notice those parts first off. Notice how much weight you have in those areas. And then scan up through all of the other joints in the body. I like to go from the bottom to the top, but there's no right way to do it. So, if I'm going from the bottom to the top, I'm going to go through my ankles, my knees, my hips. I might pause at my pelvis for a little while, and then I'm going to go up through the spine and all of the curves through the spine. And just notice that. Then we're going to do something a little different. I always love going to the feet because the feet are our foundation. So I invite you really quickly, if you've got shoes on, to take them off. If you want to do this bare feet, go ahead and take off your socks. But if you can do it with your socks on, what we're going to do is we're going to slap and clap the sole of your feet.
How interesting.
Now,
I've never heard of it.
it's part of a longer, like what I would do for a foot massage. And it's a really great way, especially early in the morning, just to give your feet a little extra stimulation.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, so I'm watching the clock, and we're kind of up against the edge of how much time you have today. So after we slap our feet, what, two or
Yeah.
three times, and it's a gentle slap, right? It's a wake up slap.
Actually, the foot can withstand quite a lot of pressure. So feel free to go ahead. I'm just going to back up my seat for a second here so I can show you. I'm flexible. So
Interesting. Okay.
once you do that, it's nice to do a quick check-in between feet, and you'll notice a difference from one foot to the other. But after doing both feet, once you do your body scan again, you'll notice sensation that wasn't there before.
Awesome.
Yeah, and so this is a great tool. Being able to continually check in with how you're doing it's a very important tool for then being able to develop this sensing.
Neat. Oh, Amy, this has been so good. And watching the clock, we're kind of over the amount of time you were willing to give. Really appreciate it. And I think we're going to have you come back because this was, we just scratched the surface.
Yeah, you did.
Oh, thank you so much.
Pleasure.